Welcome to Cat Facts Funny, a place where we slow down enough to notice the things cats never say out loud, the pauses between movements, the moments when nothing seems to happen, yet something clearly has. This channel exists for those quiet observations, because that's where cats do most of their communicating. Today's story is about what happens when cats feel overlooked, not ignored in a harsh or neglectful way, not unloved or abandoned, but gently, subtly unseen. When routines continue, food bowls are filled, and the house feels the same. Yet the emotional rhythm between a cat and their human has shifted just enough to be felt. Cats don't experience love the way humans do. They don't count affection in minutes or measure it by frequency. They experience it through timing, predictability, safety, and emotional availability. And when something in that balance changes, even slightly, cats don't complain. They adapt. That adaptation is quiet. And that quiet is what we're here to understand. The moment things begin to shift. For most cat parents, there isn't a single moment they can point to and say, "That's when it started." Instead, it feels like realizing the room has gone quiet without remembering when the noise stopped. The change arrives slowly, wrapped inside normal days. Your cat still eats, still sleeps, still moves through the house. But the way they do those things feels different. They pause longer before entering a room. They watch you from across the space instead of settling beside you. Or they suddenly seem glued to you in a way they never were before. These changes are often dismissed because they don't look dramatic. Cats are expected to be moody, independent, changeable. But cats are also deeply sensitive to emotional patterns. They notice when attention becomes distracted, when touch becomes rushed, when presence exists physically, but not emotionally. When a cat feels overlooked, they don't interpret it as rejection right away. Instead, they begin to test their environment. They make small behavioral adjustments to see if the connection can be restored without risk. Why cats rarely ask for attention directly. In nature, drawing attention is rarely safe. Vulnerability is something cats manage carefully, even in loving homes. Their instincts don't disappear just because the couch is soft and the food is guaranteed. This is why cats don't typically demand affection in obvious ways. They don't tap you on the shoulder or cry dramatically for reassurance unless they already feel very safe doing so. More often, they communicate indirectly, through changes in behavior rather than requests. When a cat feels emotionally uncertain, their first instinct isn't to beg, it's to observe, to adjust, to wait. They may sit closer, just close enough to feel your presence without intruding. Or they may sit farther away, watching to see if you notice the distance. These small experiments help cats determine whether the emotional environment is stable. If the environment responds warmly, they relax. If it doesn't, they adapt again. When closeness suddenly intensifies. For some cats, feeling overlooked triggers a need for reassurance through proximity. These are the cats who begin following their humans from room to room, sitting against legs, choosing laps at unexpected moments, or positioning themselves directly in your path. This behavior is often labeled as clingy or needy, but that framing misses the emotional context entirely. To a cat, closeness isn't about control. It's about confirmation. Physical proximity becomes a way to regulate emotional uncertainty. Being near you allows them to monitor your mood, your movements, your availability. It's grounding. It's stabilizing. It answers the unspoken question of whether the bond is still intact. Cats who seek closeness during emotional uncertainty aren't demanding more love. They're checking whether the love they already trust is still there. When distance becomes the safer choice, other cats respond in the opposite direction. Instead of moving closer, they move away. They choose different sleeping spots. They spend more time alone. They stop initiating contact altogether. This withdrawal is often misread as independence or disinterest, but it's rarely that simple. For these cats, emotional distance feels safer than emotional risk. If reaching out doesn't feel reliably met, retreat becomes a form of self-preservation. This isn't punishment. It isn't resentment. It's conservation. Cats who withdraw are often deeply sensitive cats who protect themselves by limiting vulnerability. They're not disconnecting because they don't care. They're waiting until connection feels safe again. Changes in voice and silence. Some cats respond to feeling overlooked by becoming more vocal. Their meows increase in frequency or intensity. The tone may change, sounding more urgent or more persistent than usual. These vocalizations aren't random. They're attempts to reestablish emotional contact, to be noticed, to be acknowledged. Other cats do the opposite. They become quieter, more reserved. They conserve their voice because they've learned that sound doesn't always lead to response. Silence in this context isn't contentment. It's adaptation. Both reactions come from the same place, a desire for emotional acknowledgement. When routine stops feeling grounding, cats rely on routine to feel safe. Familiar patterns provide structure and predictability, which support emotional regulation. When emotional connection feels uncertain, even well-established routines can lose their comforting effect. A cat may lose interest in play they once enjoyed. They may seem restless, moving from place to place without settling. Or they may sleep more than usual, using rest as a way to avoid emotional stimulation. These changes aren't signs of laziness or boredom. They reflect an internal recalibration process where the cat is attempting to restore balance. Grooming as emotional regulation. Grooming is one of the primary ways cats regulate themselves emotionally. It provides comfort, structure, and sensory grounding. When a cat stops grooming, it can signal low emotional energy or internal distress. When a cat overgrooms, it can indicate anxiety or a need for self-soothing. Both extremes point to emotional imbalance rather than physical habit. Appetite as emotional feedback. Food represents more than nutrition for cats. It represents predictability, care, and routine. When emotional needs feel unmet, appetite often reflects that imbalance. Some cats eat more as a form of comfort. Others lose interest entirely. These changes are usually gradual and easy to miss, which is why they often go unnoticed until they become pronounced. Restlessness and withdrawal. A cat who feels emotionally unsettled may struggle to fully relax. They reposition frequently, pace quietly, or appear unable to settle into deep rest. Others may retreat into prolonged sleep, avoiding interaction altogether. Both responses reflect the same internal state, unresolved emotional tension. Why this is never about blame. Cats can feel overlooked even in deeply loving homes. Even with attentive, caring humans, emotional connection isn't measured by effort alone. It's shaped by timing, presence, and mutual awareness. This story isn't about guilt. It's about noticing, because once something is noticed, it can be gently adjusted. Life has a way of pulling attention in many directions at once. Stress, routine, exhaustion, responsibility. None of these mean love has faded. But to a cat, emotional distance isn't evaluated by intention. It's experienced through sensation, through tone, through the subtle difference between being near someone and being with them. That's why this story is never about blame. Cats don't assign fault. They don't keep score. They don't replay past moments looking for mistakes. They simply respond to what feels safe now. If something feels slightly off, they adjust to protect themselves, not to accuse, punish, or withdraw love. This is also why guilt doesn't help, but awareness does. Once something is noticed, a change in rhythm, a pause in connection, a quiet shift, it can be gently adjusted. Not through force or correction, but through presence, through slowing down, through allowing connection to happen again in its own time. How emotional safety is restored. Cats don't need dramatic changes to feel safe again. They respond to consistency, calm presence, and predictable moments of connection. Sitting nearby without expectation, speaking softly, offering attention without pressure, allowing choice. These small, steady behaviors rebuild trust quietly. When a cat begins to feel emotionally seen again, the changes are subtle. A glance held slightly longer, a return to a familiar sleeping spot, a soft blink offered without hesitation. There is no announcement, no dramatic reunión, just a quiet return to connection. So if your cat has been acting differently, try not to ask what's wrong with them. Ask what might have shifted in the rhythm you share. Cats don't stop loving when they feel overlooked. They pause, they watch, they wait, and when love feels safe again, they don't hesitate to choose it, just as quietly as they always have.